Did you know that you can invest 100% passively in real estate, just like you were buying a stock on the open stock market? Not a lot of people know this, and it's not necessarily something that your financial advisor is going to come out right and tell you about, but you can take retirement account money and put it into a self-directed IRA and then invest in real estate with it. It's just as simple as opening up a bank account. Yeah, there's paperwork and things like that to do. Yeah, you have to request the money to get transferred from one retirement account to another. Dealing with paperwork's not always the most fun thing to do. And once you have that set up, then what you can do is cut a check and wire money over for a real estate deal to like a title company. It's really kind of functions and flows the same way like a checking account does. It's not this big overwhelming thing or anything like that, even though they use terms like, oh, you have to have a custodian and all of that stuff. But transferring money from one retirement account to another, and generally speaking, does not get you any sort of tax liability or any sort of penalty or anything like that. And real estate's a class you can invest in. You're able to invest into it, keep all the money in the retirement account, and not get taxed on any of that money and have it grow just the same as if you were in the mutual funds or stock market or whatnot. So when it comes to investing passively, first part's the money, right? Like getting that figured out. You can obviously use your own cash too if you have cash, not a retirement account that you want to use. The confusing part is that a lot of people talk about rentals as passive income. There's active involvement that's needed. Even if you have a property manager, the property manager, if there's a new tenant needed or if the toilet leaks, is going to have to ask you, hey, can I send somebody out there to do the work? Do you approve of this? So there's even a little bit of work, even if you have a world-class property manager involved, but you have to find the property. A lot of times you have to fix it up, negotiate a deal, find the tenant. There's a lot of work involved. So the interesting part though is that it can be passive because it doesn't mean that you have to do the work. You can have a partner that ends up doing the work. So as far as some of these passive structures, the most basic one that I've seen people do is a structure where you have a money partner and then you have let's call it a hustle partner. Basically, you have somebody that's doing all the work and then you have somebody that's paying for everything, and they split at the end of the day, they split the deal 50-50, and the person with the time wins because they don't probably have the money. The person without the time that has the money wins because they don't necessarily have the time. This structure is a really common one for real estate investors to get started in, and it's a really valuable one for them. That one of the drawbacks with this, at some point, as the young guy, a guy in his 20s gets experience, he's going to realize I'm doing all the work for 50 and I have money now, so I don't actually need the money partner anymore. So one of the drawbacks with this structure is you're taking on a considerable amount of risk in a young, hungry, motivated, completely unproven person, that they're going to be able to do the right thing, execute when they really probably don't know, when they really don't know, they don't have the experience. You have to kind of take a leap of faith that it ends up working out. Decent amount of potential profit if you do hit on them, but also quite a bit of risk in this model, okay? So then the second model that a lot of people will do is private lending, okay? And I'm gonna do another video where I really break down how private lending works. So make sure that you check that out. We'll put it in the comments below, the link to that video. Now on the private lending side, basically what you do is you say, hey investor, you need money to buy this house, right? I have cash. How about I give you $200,000 and you give me a lien on the house and you pay me monthly or you pay me quarterly, or when the house ends up selling in 6 months, and you can buy the house, fix it up, and then resell it and then give me the return on that, okay? So there's an active way to do private lending and there's a passive way, okay? The active way would be, you in essence would be this is called hard money lending. You would in essence be the hard money lender, and when the investor needs $10,000 because the kitchen's done, and that's what the contract states, is that they get a draw when the kitchen gets done. You have to verify the pictures, go out to the property, make sure that everything's in line, make sure that the work was done, and then, okay, what you said was correct, here's the $10,000. So you have to do the distributions. You have to make sure that everything's in line. And then if you're actively running the hard money lending company, on the off chance that the investor does default, it would be on you to take back the property and then finish it if it's in the middle of construction, and then resell and hope you don't lose too much money in that case. So that's the active way. There's more financial upside there, but there's also more financial risk. The passive way to do it is to find a hard money lending company. So we actually run a hard money lending company. In this model, we've taken $250 million and earned returns 100% of the time. We've hit our promised returns on this. Now, not every one of our hard money loans has gone through. We have had to foreclose on some that have defaulted. A ratio we've kind of fluctuated between 1% to 3% over the years on what we have to do that. But we take on that risk. So on the private lending side, they give the cash, we handle the disbursements, we handle all the little nuances there. If a default happens, we take back the property, and if the property loses money, we lose the money, not the private lender. So that's the active and the passive. There's less money to be made in the passive, but there's less work and there's less risk, okay? A third way to passively invest in real estate is called private equities. On these equity deals, sometimes people will call them real estate funds too, and both would be correct. So as far as the real estate fund goes, multiple people take money, they put it into this real estate fund entity structure, and then the real estate fund, the company, it's their job to go out and execute on their strategy and make a return. And the investors are tied to the returns and how the real estate's performing. So on the debt side of things, on the lending side, when you're doing it passively, it doesn't really matter how the deal goes. The returns are what the returns are going to be. It could be a $200,000 profit deal, or it could be a break even. And the private lender's really going to get that return and have certainty around that. On the equity side, if you do have that grand slam, that home run, well, everyone shares in that benefit. Everyone shares in that upside. Private lending is typically a lot more liquid because a lot of these deals are more short term. You have like 3 to 6 month turnarounds on a lot of them, so you can get your money back. And if you needed it for something else, you don't necessarily have to reinvest it in it, is what we see in a lot of the private lending structures. Not all of them, but when you go into the real estate fund world, a lot of times you'll see 3, 4, 5, up to 10 years where your money is going to be tied into the deal because real estate's not as liquid of an asset as, like, say, a stock on the stock market. And because of that liquidity, a fund manager, they have to take care of the entity as a whole, not necessarily the individual investor. So when you go into that, you have to know that, hey, my money's really going to be locked up over the long term. One of the other disadvantages within the fund structures is typically you have to be an accredited investor. So that means as a single individual, you're generating $200,000 of income per year, or you have a net worth of over $1 million. A joint couple or 2 people working, you need to generate over $300,000 a year or have that $1 million net worth. So these structures are really good once you've already figured out how to make the money to turn into more passive wealth for yourself. Okay, so wrapping this all up, real estate can be a passive investment. You just have to have the right people doing all the work for you. You don't have to do it active, and you can take retirement account on money, invest in it. It can be as passive as buying a stock on the stock market. And it's a great opportunity to set yourself up for retirement and set yourself up for a long-term wealth. All right, guys, so that's a wrap. Here at the Passive Wealth Show, our goal is to take high income earners that are working really hard for their money and turn them into people whose money works hard for them so that one day they don't have to. So check out our other content, and I really appreciate your time.